What happens when one athlete becomes the lifeline of an entire professional league and then goes down, not retires, not opts out, but is injured, bench gone for the WNBA? The question isn't hypothetical, it's happening right now. Caitlin Clark, rookie record breaker, national icon, got hurt, and in just days, the entire ecosystem around her began to crumble. TV ratings, free fall ticket prices collapsed, fan morale exploding with frustration. This isn't just an injury report, it's an expose.
Christine, how much does it hurt the WNBA when Caitlin Clark is out?
It is devastating to the WNBA when Caitlin Clark is out.
Now, I know a lot of us were expecting some sort of dip since Caitlin Clark has been out with injury, but I don't think all of us were expecting the entire viewership of the entire WNBA to be down. And this tweet from Christine Brennan really stuck out to me. She said, one player gets injured and more than half the TV audience for the entire league disappears. Has any other athlete ever had that kind of impact on a sport? Golf without Tiger definitely dropped precipitously on occasion. But
this is what happens when you build your empire on one player and then fail to protect her. Caitlin Clark didn't sneak into the league. She didn't arrive quietly. She came in like a tsunami after an unprecedented college career at Iowa, breaking the NCAA scoring record and leading her team to record-shattering final for viewership. Clark wasn't just a star, she was a media event. Every move, every game, every interview trended. The Indiana Fever, a franchise that had sat on the league's back shelf for years, suddenly became the center of attention. Arena staff scrambled to expand seating. Television crews arrived with more cameras than ever before. Scalpers were charging for figures for courtside, and the numbers didn't like game 1 with Clark 21 million viewers, game to 23. It kept rising. Her jerseys sold out in hours. Her highlight reels were broadcast on ESPN, CNN, even late-night talk shows. It was the kind of stardom the WNBA had long dreamed of, and finally they had it. But here's the thing about dreams, they're fragile. The league's surge in popularity wasn't a rising tide lifting all boats, it was one speedboat dragging the rest behind. A Caitlin Clark didn't just help the WNBA, she was the WNBA. Viewership spiked to 150%. Ticket revenue doubled. Sponsorships, endorsements, crossovers with brands like Nike, Gatorade, State Farm all came because of her. She brought little girls and first-time fans into stadiums. She made casual NBA fans turn their heads.
quad injury jumped to her groin, likely because of compensation. But the thing that you have to be careful of is if, say, you try to rush her back from this injury as well, then you're getting into this territory where a very serious injury can happen. That is what the Indiana Fever, that is what Caitlin need to avoid the best that they possibly can. So if it means that Caitlin is out for 3 weeks, if it means that she is out all the way through All-Star, then so be it.
She lit a fire, and in doing so, she made herself indispensable, and that's where the danger begins. See, in professional sports, when a league discovers its golden goose, they usually wrap her in titanium. They protect her, market her, shield her from harm physically and politically. But not the WNBA. They let her walk into hostile territory. They let her get fouled, elbowed, jawed at, even body checked, with no real consequences for her opponents. The stats tell the story of the 30 flagrant fouls recorded in 2020 for so far. 5 were against Caitlin Clark. That's more than double any other player. And this isn't just about numbers, it's about impact. These hits weren't just hard, they were targeted, deliberate, and the WNBA silent. No fines, no ejections, no public statements, just silence. It was like watching your star chef get punched in the kitchen while the restaurant manager handed out coupons. Let me hit pause for a second. Imagine if the NFL let Tom Brady get sacked after the whistle. If the NBA let Steph Curry get undercut every time he took a 3, what would happen? Fine, suspensions, outrage, because they understand something the WNBA is only now beginning to grasp. Superstars aren't just players, they're infrastructure. They are walking revenue machines. You don't let them get beat up, you protect the investment. But in this case, the league didn't, and then came the injury. May 24th, a routine game, a seemingly harmless move. Clark strains her quad, she leaves the court. No dramatic stretcher, no scream, just a quiet, subtle departure, and then silence from the WNBA, from the media, from from her team, but the ripple effects were immediate. Ratings fell 55%. Fever. Games that were drawing over 18 million now down to 847,000 games that were once sold out weeks in advance now. Offering tickets for $80, the Chicago Sky vs. Fever rematch, one of the most hyped games of the year, saw ticket prices collapse from $210 to just $95. And remember, that same matchup drew 225 million just weeks earlier. Instead of sounding the alarm, the league tried to downplay it. It's just one player. She be back. Women's basketball is growing, but the numbers didn't care. Sponsors began asking hard questions. Networks started rethinking airtime allocations, and fans, they weren't just disappointed, they were furious. They felt betrayed because this wasn't an accident. This was a slow-motion train wreck everyone saw coming, and no one tried to stop. Clark comes back, plays a few games, but the energy is off. Her numbers dip. She's clearly not 100%. And then another injury, a groin strain, potentially more serious than the first. Medical professionals speculate it was compensation, trying to favor one side. Her body overcorrects, and just like that, she's gone again, this time with no timeline for return. And now the WNBA faces something it's never dealt with before: the possibility that their entire resurgence was a house of cards, a house built on one foundation, and that foundation just cracked. What's worse than a crisis with witnesses, millions of them, because Clark's injuries didn't just sideline a player, they woke up a fan base, and they weren't quiet. Twitter exploded, Reddit threads lit up, Facebook groups filled with angry, emotional posts. Fans felt blindsided not by the injuries, but by the league's lack of response. Where was Kathy Engelbert? Where was the statement condemning the reckless fouls? Where was the accountability? Nowhere. And that silence, it was deafening. Fans weren't just upset, they were done. Many vowed not to watch another game until Clark returned. Others announced full-on boycotts, not just of the Fever, but of the entire WNBA. Sponsors noticed, networks noticed, and the data showed the fallout was real. Let's talk about the hard numbers. Before her injury, Caitlin Clark was responsible for 265% of the league's entire economic activity. One player, that's ticket sales, TV ratings, merchandise, engagement, sponsorship role, all tied to one woman. And when she left, it was like pulling the plug on a ventilator. Attendance fell across the board. Teams that moved games to bigger arenas to accommodate Clark, now struggling to fill half. The Chicago Sky, who had sold out their home arena for Clark's arrival, watched those same seats sit empty. Days later, ticket resale prices dropped over 70%. The average floor seat went from over $1,000 to under $300. Even jersey sales flattened, Caitlin's being the only WNBA jersey cracking top seller lists nationally. It wasn't a trend, it was a crash. Let's pause for perspective. Remember Tiger Woods when he pulled out of tournaments? TV ratings for golf fell by as much as 40%. He was golf, and Caitlin Clark is in that same category. Brennan even said, it has any athlete ever had this much impact on their league? Maybe Tiger, but this is different because women's basketball didn't have a Tiger Woods before Clark. She isn't adding to the WNBA's success, she is the success. And that's what makes this also terrifying. When your foundation is a single person and you fail to protect that person, you're not just risking a season, you're risking the entire sport's future. Now let's zoom out. This isn't just about fans or games or TV ratings. This year, the WNBA is heading into collective bargaining agreement (CBA) negotiations. The timing couldn't be worse. The WNBA hoped to leverage its rising profile thanks to Clark to secure better salaries, more media coverage, and more investment. But without Clark, those metrics flatline, and investors, they follow date. They don't care about spin. They care about reward. When ratings are up, players get leverage. When ratings crash, that leverage disappears. This injury could cost every player in the league millions, not just this season, but for years. And who takes the blame? Not Clark, not the fans, but the league that let its most valuable asset take elbow after elbow until her body couldn't take any more. Let's call it what it is. This wasn't just physical, it was political. Clark wasn't protected because protecting her would've meant admitting she mattered more, and in a league trying to promote equality, that felt risky. But here's the truth: equality doesn't mean pretending everyone is equal in value. It means recognizing who brings what to the table and acting accordingly. Tom Brady got special treatment, so did LeBron, so did Serena, because greatness deserves protection, and Clark, she deserved it too. Instead, she was treated like just another rookie, despite drawing the crowds, despite doubling ratings, despite saving franchises from financial ruin. Instead of protecting her, the league allowed her to become a political people target criticized, bashed, even blamed for her own success, and now they're paying the price. This story isn't just about injuries, it's about something deeper. Trust Clark's fans, millions of them believed this season would be different, that the league was ready for its moment, that women's basketball was finally stepping into the spotlight. But now that belief is fractured. When they watched her get body checked, they cringed. When no foul was called, they gasped. When the WNBA stayed silent, they raged. It wasn't just Caitlin who got hurt, it was them, because every kid in the stands wearing a Clark jersey felt like the league told them, we don't care, and that doesn't heal with ice and timeouts. So now the WNBA stands at a crossroads. Their biggest star is on the bench, their ratings are collapsing, their trust with fans is broken, and their future uncertain. The easy option: wait, hope Clark comes back, hope she saves the season, hope fans forgive and forget. But that's not leadership, that's desperation. Because here's the truth: even if Clark returns, even if she drops 40 points in her comeback game, even if she pulls the ratings back up, the damage has already been done. Asterisk. The question now isn't if she can save them, it's whether she should have to. Here's where the crisis deepens, because it's not just fans turning away, it's money. When Caitlin Clark entered the league, corporate sponsorships flooded in. Big brands, big dollars, big promises. She became the face of State Farm ads. Nike prepared an entire campaign around her. Even non-sports companies were lining up, eager to be associated with the Clark effect. But since her injury, that momentum has stalled. Brands are pausing, waiting, watching, because their investment wasn't in the WNBA, it was in her. And if she's not playing, the exposure disappears, the risk skyrockets, and what was once a marketing dream becomes a financial question mark. The league doesn't just lose ratings, it loses relevance in the sponsorship arena, and when advertisers start pulling back, the dominoes begin to fall fast. And then there's the meteor. For weeks, major networks stayed cautiously optimistic. The narrative was all about growth, expansion, new audiences. But then came the silence, then came the boycott, and then came the backlash. Journalists began asking questions. Christine Brennan, in particular, pulled no punches. This league continues to fail to meet the moment. She pointed out the numbers, the drop, the missed opportunities, and the missed responsibility. Because when the most important rookie in sports, since LeBron, gets hit 5 times in 5 games and the league shrugs it off, that's not growth, that's negligence. And now, that negligence is being documented in headlines, in op-eds, in Brennan's upcoming book. And when that book drops, everything the league tried to contain will be out in permanent ink. The kids, the thousands of young girls showing up to games not for the WNBA but for Caitlin, wearing Iowa jerseys, Fever jerseys, Nike sneakers with her number, smiling, screaming, believing. They weren't there for just basketball. They were there because of who Caitlin represented: strength, brilliance, visibility. They didn't see a political figure. They saw a hero, and now she's off the court. And they're asking why. They see the hits, they see the headlines, and they see no justice. The next generation is watching, and if this is what they learn about how women's sports treats its stars, what message are we really sending? Let's be honest, this would never happen in the NBA. If LeBron James were elbowed to the floor repeatedly, the league would react instantly. Suspensions, fines, statements from the commissioner. Why? Because the NBA understands the value of its stars. They protect them, they uplift them, they build the entire league around them, because they know that one athlete can carry an entire economy. But the WNBA, it treated Clark like she was replaceable, interchangeable, just another jersey on the court. And that might be the most costly mistake of all, because she isn't just another player. She's the player, and you don't get many like her in a generation. So where does it go from here? The league is bleeding viewership. Ticket prices are in freefall. Players are frustrated. Fans are boycotting. Sponsors are hesitating. And all the while, the league leadership seems paralyzed, unable, or unwilling to admit that they misjudged everything. This was their shot, and they blew it. Or they can turn it around. But only if they do something they haven't done so far. Own the mistake. Speak out. Protect their star. Not in silence, not in passive tweets, but in policy, in punishment. For reckless fouls, in support that actually matters. In shifting the culture to match the moment.